has a big heart. Love his daughters, sons, grandchildren.
Saddam loved to make home movies of his family, carefully documenting public appearances with his children.
Saddam crafted an image of himself as a family man who was very attentive, but from everything we're told from his inner circle, that wasn't where his attention was. His attention was at the office, at keeping power in politics.
By 1990, Saddam Hussein was faced with a huge financial crisis. He'd spent almost 8 years trying to conquer Iran, a lost cause that cost Iraq billions of dollars. Meanwhile, the Hussein family continued to spend millions on their extravagant lifestyle. The dictator found himself in need of cash, and lots of it. So he set his sights on another oil-rich country, Kuwait.
He saw a very simple way to enrich himself and to make himself appear to be more powerful, which was to march his troops and his relatively powerful army across the border and take over Kuwait, which was very poorly defended, easy geographically to conquer, and extremely oil-rich.
On August 2nd, 1990, Saddam's army invaded Kuwait, a move condemned by the West.
This will not stand. This will not stand, this aggression against Kuwait.
What kept him going is this notion that his role in history would be grand. And I think, Saddam in his wildest fantasies was ruling not just Iraq, but all of Arabia.
The Gulf War to liberate Kuwait began on January 17, 1991. Only 1 month later, it was all over. Saddam's forces were destroyed. Saddam tried to put a positive face on the crushing defeat, but behind closed doors, it was a bitter pill for him to swallow.
He said, they've taken Kuwait from me. His eyes were filled with tears. They didn't roll down his face, but his whole face was filled with grief. He repeated, they've taken Kuwait from me, but I shall get it back again.
One thing that remained intact after the war was the Hussein household. Saddam's family and most of his top aides had survived. And when he was later threatened with uprisings within Iraq's Kurdish and Shiite communities, his son Qusay was there to put them down. Like his father, who studied and admired Adolf Hitler, Qusay was merciless in killing thousands.
Qusay and his associates employed tactics reminiscent of the Nazi SS, taking whole families out from their homes and machine gunning them to death.
Qusay had proved himself, and now his star was on the rise.
Within a year of that uprising, which was March '91, Qusay was in charge, was supervising all the intelligence agencies. So, he rocketed to prominence in that time.
Passed over by Saddam as heir apparent, Uday focused his attention on money. Circumventing UN sanctions imposed on Iraq after the war, he smuggled tens of millions of barrels of oil out of the country and made a fortune.
This paid for the regime. This gave them the cash reserves to pay their guards, to build their palaces, to buy their weapons, and keep the regime in place.
Uday used rooms in his palaces just to store stacks of cash. He collected more than 1,000 fancy cars and wore flashy clothes and jewels.
He could buy anything he wanted. He decided he wanted to become a designer of men's clothing. So he started having tailors, make these outrageous suits that he designed for himself.
He was also rumored to use drugs regularly, which may have accounted for his erratic and violent behavior, even toward his own family. In 1995, a minor dispute with an uncle, Watban Hassan, set Uday on a rampage.
He actually raided a party
where his uncle Watban was present and sprayed the partygoers with machine gun fire and wounded his uncle very severely.
Saddam was so enraged that he went to the garage where Uday kept his fast cars, a vast collection of, you name it, Ferraris and what Porsches and what else, and he ordered that the whole things be set alight.
But Uday ignored Saddam's warning and only became more treacherous in the coming decade. As Uday's behavior became more uncontrollable, he fell further out of favor with Saddam. This only made Uday's jealousy rage out of control. He began to take aim at all the relatives who threatened him.
When he was the Rupert Murdoch of Iraq, if you like, and he had newspapers, radio stations, TV stations, and he would use these for his own political ends. And so he was attacking various members of his family.
And there was no one he targeted more viciously than his brother-in-law, Hussein Kamel. Resentful of his influence and his relationship with Saddam, Uday was determined to discredit him.
His men just went through everything to spy on Hussein Kamel, to get the dossier of dirt that Uday would present to his father. And by the way, Hussein Kamel was doing exactly the same thing as far as Uday was concerned.
It would only be a matter of time before Uday would accuse Hussein Kamel of stealing millions from the government in weapons deals. On August 7, 1995, Hussein Kamel, his brother, and their wives, Saddam's two oldest daughters, fled to Jordan, where they were given asylum. In return, Hussein Kamel divulged some of Iraq's top secrets, including information on Saddam's weapons of mass destruction. Saddam was furious over the betrayal and ordered Uday to lure Hussein Kamel and the families back to Iraq.
He understood how incredibly damaging it would be to have these two men in the custody of a country friendly to the United States. He understood that they were going to spill secrets about Saddam's weapons of mass destruction program. So he wanted to put a stop to that, and he wanted his daughters back.
Both families returned to Iraq, believing Saddam's promises that they would be safe and that all would be forgiven.
They were met at the Jordanian border by Uday with a group of bodyguards. The moment Uday saw them, his sisters, Rana and Ragda, were separated from their husbands, put in a separate convoy and driven to Baghdad.
While held hostage in a family villa, Saddam ordered his daughters and sons-in-law to sign divorce papers. But this was not the end of Saddam's revenge.
Uday arrived with a special unit of the Republican Guard. They surrounded the house and they bombarded it.
And then the house caught fire. The brothers-in-law came out and were shot and killed.
The main killing was undertaken by Uday, but the one thing that Qusay did was to take a video camera and record the whole thing. He then took the video back to Saddam so that Saddam could see that both brothers-in-law had been killed.
For Saddam, nothing was too extreme when it came to protecting his immediate family, including murdering members of his own clan.